Hey everyone, this is Stephen. It's the 30th of November 2016 and I like to try and start with a today in history. However, nothing interesting ever happened on the 30th of November as far as I'm aware. So, until this webcast of course. So, building out this bot is going to be our landmark for the 30th of November. After the excitement of Thanksgiving, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I do have an announcement to make in this webcast. Over the next 25 days leading up to Christmas, I'll be doing a 5-minute Advent webcast each day with a news story, FlowXO tip, bot launch or something else. Be sure to tune in to get some special insights, and I'm sure I'll have some special FlowXO prizes to give away too. I've said in webcasts for a few weeks now that this is a great time of year to be talking about bots. In a lot of use cases, they're going to be used as marketing tools in a retail context in the run-up to Christmas, which is, of course, now only 26 days away. The first is tomorrow. For now, an official welcome to FlowXO's Getting Started webcast, where we'll get you up and running with FlowXO with an introduction to its key features and benefits, especially in relation to its push services for marketing, its messaging service for contacting human agents in real time, and how to collect data through a conversational form. If there's anything specific you'd like to see, just get in live chat now or drop a note into our community later. If you haven't been there yet, I'll give you some links for that at the end. Before we get into our webcast proper, a quick shout out to our hashtag WhatTheBot. You can follow WhatTheBot on Twitter to keep up to date with all the latest bot news. It's a great source of inspiration and will keep you up to date with ideas for leveraging a bot in your business. I just have two bots I want to look at with you today. One is a revisit as it's had an update, and the other is a brand new one. Let's just take a look in Messenger. So firstly here, I've got the Just Eat bot. This bot's been around for a while, but it has had a renewed push recently. It's worth just taking a closer look. There's one really nice feature in here. Just Eat are a fast food aggregator ordering service. So they collate menus of establishments. Then you just have a single marketplace to visit for whenever you have a food craving for a particular food. This bot is cool because you can give it a food emoji for what you want to order. So it's not just text-based. You can give a picture of a pizza and it'll know that you want a pizza. It is missing a location button. I had to type my postcode in here to get my location. That's surprising. It's a major feature and it could really transform this bot into something special. Next up, I've got the Odeon bot. Now, I'm overwhelmingly positive about bots. I love them and I can't get enough of them. But as I've said for a while, it's really easy to do them badly. Unfortunately, the Odeon bot doesn't really hit the mark. You can see it starts promisingly. It offers some good features. It's got location recognition. It's got a menu of films. It's even got an option for some customer support. And there's some nice pictures on the buttons here too. But they don't really work together. You can see here's my latest search. I wanted to go see Bambi at the cinema, and this is the result that I was given on a search for Bambi. Now, essentially the bot should return no results in this case. You know, we've come to accept that from a website, but here I think we're trying to fill a gap that really doesn't need to be filled. If you're watching Odeon, get in touch. I'd love to look at how we can make this bot really special with you. How about offering a link when someone asks for a film that isn't showing, where they can buy the DVD? Okay, by this point, you'll have signed up for a FlowXO account and you've connected up your Messenger bot. Again, let us know if you're having any trouble with that, either right now in live chat, on Facebook, pass us a note in the FlowXO community. Just a quick reminder, what is FlowXO? Well, first of all, it's the future of business messaging, and you know it's true because it says it just there over my shoulder. In more direct terms, FlowXO is a complete platform for building, hosting, and managing chatbots for messaging platforms such as Messenger, Slack, and Telegram. It includes a visual editor to build bots without code. Everything is driven by a set of flows which we build with certain tasks. You can create and distribute your own bots which are owned and branded by you but controlled and hosted by FlowXO. I'm running this cast live so that I can maximize your time and provide everything you need to get started right in this session. Let us solve any queries or give any guidance you need right away. There's live chat, so by all means get chatting to the team and I. Put some questions on Facebook if you like. Down to business, let's get onto my desktop. My example business for today is the Mortgage Store, who are the home of the Mortgage Bot. The Mortgage Store are a typical mortgage broker who are regulated to advise customers on mortgage loans, and they have this Facebook page in place. They have a range of products available: first-time buyer, remortgage, buy-to-let or second home mortgages. Just some more context, the Mortgage Store simply want to communicate with customers better, provide a more engaging experience, divert basic queries away from the resource-intensive phone line, and ultimately write more business. If you got my email, you should have a bot in place by now, and Messenger open and ready to go, as well as Google Sheets, Gmail, and of course FlowXO. We'll take a close look at that setup in a few minutes, but first let's just dive in and take a look at our bot in action. I'm going to launch him fresh here so that you can see that clicking started in Messenger gives us some specific welcome text for brand new customers. So clicking get started passes the start keyword, and you can see here that right away he's tried to get us on track by giving us some option buttons. He's trying to fulfill his purpose right away. However, it's important that it can handle some basic conversation, so let's say hello. And you can see he wants to get right to the point again. He's given us some basic options right away again to direct us to the things we want him to handle. But as the customer, I'm more interested in how he is. I'm going to be a little bit mischievous and type in a question rather than click an option he's given. Okay, so you can see he can easily counter that, and he's constantly directing us back into the bot's purpose, which is the whole point of having the bot out there. It's really easy to set up this basic conversational chatter and capture any and all things that are thrown at the bot. We'll look at some flows in a moment so you can see how easy it was to put this together. First, let's have a look at some of the other options that he's alluded to in our conversation. First, let's assume that none of the options we have that are given are immediately directly helpful, or that we're a little impatient, and remind ourselves again what all of our options are. We'll ask for help. And we're reiterated that menu of options that we can ask and get a direct answer to. Let's subscribe to some content for updates that we might want from this bot. And I may have acted a little bit hastily there, and I may have realised I've actually picked the wrong option. No problem, I can just unsubscribe as I'm told I can. Instead, what I'd like to try and do here is get a quote from this bot for a mortgage. So I'm not so much interested in the updates, I'm more interested in getting a quote from this bot directly. So I'm going to ask for a quote. And you can see here, actually, I've fallen back on the helper text again. The bot isn't able to handle this request for a quote. Now, that's a flow that needs building, obviously. That's a problem for me as the customer. I should probably tell the creator of this bot that I'd like a quote, but the bot can't give me one. We'll ask to speak to a human. And the bot asks us what we'd like to pass to the human. And we're told that somebody will be in touch in 2 to 3 hours. Now if I visit Gmail, if I imagine I'm the agent at the mortgage broker here, I'm passed the message directly into Gmail, and I'm told exactly what the customer wanted to ask a human agent. I can hit reply here. I'm back in Messenger. You'll see that the message from the human is seeded directly into this channel, so that I don't have to leave, as the customer, I don't have to leave this channel to be able now to speak to the human and reply directly to them in this thread. Alternatively, I could go away and continue speaking to the bot. We'll look at how the FlowXO messaging service powers that option shortly, as well as resolving the issue with getting a quote. We're going to build that flow out together, and we'll send some content to our subscribers. So now let's look at how we'll actually build out some of this functionality. Just before we go and do that and go any further, however, let's just take a closer look at our setup. I have FlowXO, of course. I have Messenger, where we've seen the bot launched. I've also got Gmail, where we just received our message. And I've also got Google Sheets here. You can see that my sheet has a specific structure, and it's important that I've set it up this way before working with any flows. Just an idea of what's going on here before we get to our flows proper. We have 3 sheets. The first, data to push. This is going to be our trigger sheet. Every time we put some information in this sheet, it's going to trigger our marketing messages through Messenger. We just need to put the correct content under the correct headings with a cut and paste. Our second sheet helps us do that. This is my staging area where I prepare the marketing messages I'll eventually want to send. I've made it easy to just cut and paste these pre-prepared messages in our future marketing sheet. You can see I have all the deals that I might want to communicate with customers here. The content is relative to our scenario, but most important is the category column here, which is going to help us contact the right customers at the right time. The third sheet here is going to be used when we collect some data through a conversational form. We'll be building that flow to populate this sheet in real time a little bit later. So here we are at the FlowXO dashboard. Just a quick shout out to this feature here. There's a referral link, and if you encourage your friends to use the platform via social media, you can earn rewards in the way of extra interactions and bots or flows. You can see I've arranged my flows into folders here, which is great for managing what the bot does and tweaking functionality, or for organising flows for different events or for different customers. So let's get into our folders and consider the flows we have here and the ones we want to build. First, we're going to use FlowXO's push service to handle our marketing and deliver content to users in Messenger. We need 3 flows to handle marketing, and this is our first. When I set up this trigger, I'm only required to give one thing, this push trigger. I'm only required to give one thing, which is the name of the push. This trigger acts as a receiver of data that will send from another flow. We need to name it something sensible so I can identify it later. Receive offers makes sense here because that's exactly what it'll do. In this next action here, we use the attribute service. Attributes can act like a counter, how many times somebody visited, or a flag, somebody said a specific word. It's a simple key value store in the background. We're going to use it here to see if a customer is eligible to receive the manner of push we're sending each time this flow is run. They'll be eligible because they suggest a certain mortgage type when they subscribed. So we're going to get the attribute of a specific customer. They're uniquely identified by their response path. And we're interested in the customer's stored mortgage product preference, which we identified as category in our spreadsheet. Of course, we've yet to ask the customer what that preference might be, but we do know that this will be one of our 4 option types: first-time buyer, remortgage, buy-to-let, or second home. This might seem just a little bit counterintuitive at the moment, getting an attribute before we've set it, but it's important that we consider this flow first so that the receiver is in place and can be called from our subsequent flows. Lastly, in this flow, we can then send a card. We're going to send some rich content rather than a simple message. I just need to fill in these inputs with the data that I'll eventually receive from the push. You can see that the outputs came directly from FlowXO. When we build our own flow in a few minutes, you'll see how easy this is. Final point, you can see there's a call out here. I needed to make this send a card action conditional so that we only send content that's appropriate to the user. We can do that by checking that the value of the attribute we got in the previous task isn't empty. That is, we've previously recorded this specific customer as preferring this type of offer. Filters are really important for controlling our workflow, and you can put them on any task to define simple logical comparisons. Just make sure this workflow is turned on, and we can look at our next flow. So on our next flow, we're now ready to get customers subscribed to the content that we'll push out. First, we need a trigger based on something that's said to the bot. In this case, we're going to focus on the keyword subscribe. It's important to note that there's some fuzzy matching here, so this trigger will also function on the word unsubscribe, meaning we can neatly accommodate both cases in one flow. Next, we're going to use one of FlowXO's helper tasks to manipulate the message the customer gave us. This is important because we want to make sure we can filter some tasks later in this flow without worrying if there are any capitalized words given. Next, we'll ask a question. We'll set the type as choice here. And we're going to ask which product type the customer is interested in. Again, we need a filter to make sure we're only asking this question on the basis that we said subscribe and not unsubscribe. Then we're ready to revisit attributes. We're going to set an attribute for this particular customer, the name of the attribute being the answer to the question we just asked, which is the mortgage type the customer is interested in. Again, we need a filter to make sure we're not doing this on the word unsubscribe you can give them. Finally, we need two push actions, one to subscribe and one to unsubscribe, which are filtered by the lowercase message that we received earlier. We're looking for the presence or absence of unsubscribe from the trigger. And finally then, we need a filtered message just to confirm that subscription has happened to the customer. Again, filtered on the same test, the presence or absence of unsubscribe. Our last flow in this set of 3 flows relating to push marketing, we're on to the exciting one, is going to be called release offers. It's a simple flow that starts with a FlowXO service integration rather than a bot new message trigger. So here we're going to use Google Sheets as a trigger. You remember we looked at the sheet that we'll use, data to push, and then we'll send a push to the receiver that we set up in flow 1. This is why it's important that we named it correctly for identification here. Okay, making sure all these flows are switched on, and we'll go and check this out in Messenger. First, let's just make sure I'm subscribed. I'll choose the option first time buyer. Then I can go over to Google Sheets. I'll pick up an offer. And in data to push, I'll paste it into the next available row. Back in FlowXO, just a note that this trigger with Google Sheets needs to sync against Google Sheets to pick up the new row. So we just need to wait for this sync operation to happen. And then here in the logs, you can see that we found the new item and the push was successfully sent. We then just need to wait a couple of seconds for things to percolate through. And you can see here the offer's been pushed through to Messenger. So those 3 flows were all that were required to manage my marketing in Messenger through the bot. Super simple to get in place, then incredibly easy to push out your messages whenever you like. You could push any kinds of updates that way, of course, not just offers. You could have attributes specific to the customer and, keeping the theme here, securely update them on the status of their conveyancing file or anything else. You might have several different flows, and you might use the ask a question action to ask which stream the customer would like to receive, and then just use filters and attributes as we've already seen. Okay, now we need to start building out the bot in terms of the general conversation and other important features. So let's consider how we greet all new customers who are speaking to the bot for the first time. When we click Get Started, we saw that customized message when we spoke to the bot for the first time, and how we respond to anything that we don't understand. Well, first we put our catch-all trigger in place. We only need to say that this trigger is going to be active for all of our bots. We don't need to give any other input because we're looking for everything that isn't captured by another trigger. Next, we're going to use the code service to get the first name of the full name that Messenger provides to us for the customer. The code service is a powerful way to do, well, whatever it is you want. It can make requests to other apps or services that FlowXO doesn't support. It can perform custom manipulation or calculations on data, and it can use the output in conversation with the customer. We've used a really simple example here, but the options are limitless. If you want to interact with your CRM, your calling or dialer system, or any other web-connected app, you can do it with this service. Be sure to talk to us to see how you can get the best out of it. Now we'll handle the greeting to brand new customers who are speaking to the bot for the first time. This action will of course be filtered again. We're only looking out for the key value start, the keyword start, and also we're going to stop this flow in its tracks if this condition is met, because we know it's a first time customer. Then, as a precursor to our next flow, we're going to have a filtered message here that we want to be said when we generally don't understand something during the flow of conversation. So we've come to two cases here, a brand new connection and a generally misunderstood message, which could have come at any point after the word start that we looked for here. We're going to tackle this second case and feed into this final task in a flow called chatter, which demonstrates some interoperability of these flows and handles the how are you type conversation that we looked at when we first launched the bot. So now we'll look at giving some specific things to the bot to make it more conversational. You're going to see how easy it is to scale these. After some simple conversation, we'll make sure we get down to business and redirect the customer to our intended process. Bots are fun, but they must certainly be functional. So first we'll trigger on new message, and we're going to trigger on these keywords and key phrases here: hi, hello, and how are. Then we're going to use the code service exactly as we saw in the last flow, just to get the person's first name. And then we're going to send a basic message, assuming we're looking for how are. We need to make sure the filter here is that our original message contains that value how are in the original message that we got. And finally then, we're going to send a message again, which is our general reply to hi, hello, etc. Again, the important thing to understand here is the interoperability of this flow with the catch-all flow that we have in place. With a few simple actions and a bit of thought, we can make the bot to respond quite intelligently, but all it took was these 4 simple actions, and then we fall back on the catch-all when the bot doesn't understand something. Let's just start to round off in terms of general conversation and correctly directing the user. So in this flow, we're just going to look out for the keyword help, but also the keyword menu, which is a common human request for a list of inputs, a list of options. And you can see here that the direct response to that, as we saw when we spoke to the bot earlier, is a list of shortcuts that do things that the bot can do directly. So finally, in terms of the functionality we saw earlier when we were looking at running the bot, we're going to look at the really important feature now, the messaging service. So here what we want to do first is trigger on a keyword or a set of keywords or phrases that mean that the customer would like some human support. The bot's not quite doing the job that it should do. So I'm going to trigger on human. I'm also going to trigger on broken, which somebody might say if the bot's not working. And you can see I'm also triggering on this keyword reply. Just take special note of that. You'll see why in a moment, but you'll remember when we looked at the bot, we're able to click reply to go directly back into conversation this way with the human and not break the thread of conversation with the human. After triggering, we're going to ask a question to get some more detail. We just want to make sure we only pass relevant information to the human. And then we're going to use the messaging service to send that detail through to the human, in this case at Gmail. We're going to give the user's name, but we're also going to give the issue, which is the answer to the question above. Final thing to do here, good practice, we're just going to let the human know how long, we're going to let the customer know how long the human is going to be in responding. So we keep the flow of conversation going, we make sure that we keep the customer updated with what's happening. We're going to send them a message saying that the human the human agent will respond directly in this channel in about 2 to 3 hours. It's that easy to get the message routing in place we saw a few minutes ago when we complained that the bot couldn't get us a quote. Now we're going to use the messaging service again in a moment. It's a really powerful tool that makes bots better than a single AI. It has all the advantages of bots and human intelligence. Before we do, just a quick but important note to say that we've used Gmail here and we saw the message being routed through to Gmail, but you can link up the messaging service to any address, and you can route messages through Freshdesk, Helpdesk, Salesforce Desk, or any other ticketing software for complete customer interaction management. So now let's take this up a level and make this a little bit more exciting. We're going to put it in a sales context. We're going to put this service in a sales context with our final flow, which we'll build out together, which is called Get a Quote. So first of all, we need to trigger here, and we're going to trigger on the keyword quote. Always important to keep the interaction engaging. So first thing we'll do is send a message directly back to the user. Then we'll ask a question. Just picking the output there that Facebook Messenger gives to us. And one further thing we can do is we can actually validate this answer to make sure we're given an email in response. Next, we'll ask another question. And we can validate this as a number. And we'll ask one final question. And you can see here, I've pre-prepared this text just because I wanted to put an emoji in here and keep this question nice and friendly. I'm going to ask what the person's salary is. I'm going to validate that as a number of gain. That was our final question. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the FlowXO number service. So this is a utility service that's going to allow us to perform a calculation. And I'm going to take the answer to that last question about the salary and I'm going to times it by 4.5, which is a typical mortgage lending criteria. As always, now that we've done everything we want to do, let's make sure we get back to the customer and keep them engaged. We're going to send a message. And again, I've got some pre-prepared text here, but you'll see I'm going to use a FlowXO output just to populate this message. I'm going to take the result here of the number operation that we performed to give this person a quote. Now, back onto things that we're interested in as the business, as the mortgage broker. What I'm interested in doing now, firstly, I'm going to use Google Sheets. I'm going to trap this person's detail with add a row. We saw that sheet that we're going to trap leads into earlier, customers, orders, and new customer, the new customer sheet, which we saw earlier. And I'm going to take the name that's given to us from Facebook, so the username. The email was the answer to our first question. The mobile was the answer to our second question. Salary was the answer to our third question. And the mortgage amount is the result of our calculation that we did. I'm going to click next and save again. And final thing to do here, I'm going to use the messaging service. Again, we're going to route this hot lead directly through to a human agent. we'll give their name, which again comes from Facebook, and we'll give the mortgage amount. So the agent has everything they need. So, two things have happened here. We're going to log the new lead via this interactive form that we've got in place through the bot. And we're also going to message this hot lead directly through to an agent on their email so that they can reply directly into the channel and hopefully close this business, close this deal. Let's run this flow and see it in action, make sure we're turned on. Over in Messenger, this time when I ask for a quote, and we'll give our cell phone number. We'll give our salary. And you can see there, I've been given an indicative amount that I can borrow. And also I'm told that we've routed our message off to an agent. Let's go over to our sheet now. Here's the detail of the new customer having been logged. And over in Gmail, here's the message that's been routed through to the agent who's got all the details that have been captured by that form. I could then of course reply and strike up a conversation with this new customer and hopefully close this deal. So here you can see we have the basis of a really good bot. We have some marketing functions in place and we're able to point out options to a brand new customer right away, and we can respond when we don't understand a particular message. We've also looked at data collection and configuring human interaction directly through the bot with a messaging service, which are both very powerful customer services and sales tools. So this is it, crunch time. I hope you've seen how easy it is to get started and you have some ideas of your own about what you'll build next. Here's what pricing looks like. For only $19 a month, you can build 15 bots or flows and accommodate 5,000 interactions. There's no contract or time period, and you can downgrade to a free plan at any time. Because you've been kind enough to watch today, I'd like to sweeten the deal. Here are some links to all the flows that we've built out today, so that you can install them right away and get going. To get them all in place, you will need more than the 5 flows that are available in the free edition. So I'll also give you your first month free if you sign up in the next 24 hours. You just have to use the coupon code there, FREE4816. With no time period, that means you can completely de-risk your own bot launch. Don't forget this video will be online for a short while later, so you can get those links if you need them. Finally, just a few resources to be aware of. We have extensive help docs in our help centre at support.flowxo.com. We have a lively community at community.flowxo.com, and we have a really constructive blog at medium.com/flowxo where we build out other use cases that might be interesting to you. Watch out for our hashtag WhatTheBot on social media to get all the latest bot news as well. Thanks for watching. I've really enjoyed building out that bot with you today. Please get signed up and tell me more about your use case. I'm going to be on live chat now with the rest of the team. We'd be delighted to help you in building out your own bot. I'll be running this session weekly, so feel free to come and watch again if you like. The core content won't change, but if you have a specific case, perhaps we can build that into the session. Just a final reminder, if you get onto Twitter and mention @FlowXO, @TweetsByBooth now, we'll make sure to give you a retweet. Get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. See you all soon.